Good afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well this afternoon. Today I'll be discussing foreclosures again, but I wanted to go over the specifics of how a sale is conducted. Because I have a lot of people asking me, well, if a sale is done wrong somehow, does that help them potentially avoid the foreclosure? So we'll be discussing the specifics of the sale today, of the foreclosure sale today, and we'll go from there. As always, welcome to another edition of Coffee with Law. This time I have afternoon tea because I'm doing this in the afternoon. My name is Benjamin Sanchez and I'm an attorney in Houston. I represent consumers, tenants, and homeowners in everyday life setbacks to help them move forward. Welcome. So yesterday we discussed when a foreclosure can actually take place. And we also discussed in Texas, and if you remember, it's the first Tuesday of every month, unless it's January 1st or July 4th, and then it's the following Wednesday. We also discussed the Texas two-step, which is the two-step notice process that someone must do in order to reach a foreclosure sale. So today, I want to discuss the actual sale. Now, in the Texas Property Code, the law is that the sale must be conducted on that Tuesday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. However, there must be a 3-hour period in which the sale must take place. It can start at any time during that time, but it must take place sometime between 10 and 4. And the notice of the foreclosure sale must state that the sale will start at whatever time for a 3-hour window. So what you see in most notices is that even though the sale can take place between 10 and 4, most notices will say between 10 and 1 because that's the 3-hour period. Technically, if someone doesn't want to get up in the morning and they want to go out in the afternoon, they can notice a sale for 1 o'clock and still have that sale be valid. Okay, so the sale can take place between 10 and 4. The notice must state a 3-hour period between those 6 hours, and most of them start at 10 or say they'll take place anywhere between 10 and 1. I've had foreclosure sales take place at any particular moment during those 3 hours. So it's not like it will start exactly at 10. I've had sales that come back say that they were done at 11:23 a.m. or 10:17. So just remember there's a 3-hour period there that they must take place. That takes care of the time element of the sale. Now we get to where the sale must take place. Property Code again says that each county must make a place available at the courthouse for this monthly auction, this monthly sale to take place. In smaller counties in Texas, that is literally done at the courthouse. The county commissioners or the county judge there will designate some place on the county courthouse grounds, whether it's outside or inside or whatever, but they'll designate some place that says this is where the sales will take place. In Harris County, where I'm located, in Houston, the fourth largest city in the United States, our courthouse couldn't handle that. So what the county judge has done here is they've made a separate facility that's usually like an entertainment facility. And they've made that facility designated for the foreclosure sale. So everyone goes to that facility and the notice that is given must state that particular facility. It doesn't say meet at the courthouse. It will say that the sale is being conducted on this date between 10 and 1 and give the name and address of the facility where that sale is to take place. So again, law requires it to be at some courthouse, but it gives flexibility for the local counties to designate another spot. I quite haven't figured out yet whether locally, whether the county judge designates that other spot temporarily as a courthouse for purposes of the sale or not. And I'll look into that later, maybe do another live when I figure that out. But here in Houston, we have another facility. So that takes care of where. So now we have what time on that day and where on that day. Now that where location is very important, especially during this time of COVID. We'll be going over more about foreclosure protections during the time of COVID on Friday. I want to end the week with all those burning questions that people have regarding foreclosures, moratoriums, and what all that means during this time. Here in Houston, though, even though foreclosures were being allowed by the state and the Texas governor did not ban foreclosures in May, because we had the rule regarding congregating altogether, and usually these foreclosure sales have a lot of people there. They have various people selling the homes. Sometimes they have attorneys. They have lots of buyers. So that's a place where social distance doesn't really work too well here in Harris County. So in May, what happened, because the county buildings were closed due to social distancing, basically the county judge closed down the spot where we would normally have our foreclosure sale for the month. Now, what that practically did is shut down a foreclosure sale that is mandated by state law at a local level. Were the people in Harris County who are subject to those foreclosure sales a little bit luckier than people around the state? Probably. If you had other people in May in a smaller county that could go ahead and do it, those were probably done. In Harris County, at least for May, that was shut down for 1 month because the local county building, or the place where the foreclosure sale was to take place, was not open by order of our local county judge. So that was pretty interesting to see that interplay between state law and local decision making. In effect, it gave our Harris County homeowners subject to foreclosure an extra month. So that was really exciting in the world of foreclosure law. Now, in terms of practically how the sale is conducted, whenever you have a deed of trust that you sign whenever you buy a home and you have a loan, there's usually one of those documents, they're called the closing documents, that's called a deed of trust. And that's basically where you give power to someone else to potentially sell the property if something goes wrong. Normally, those people who are in the deed of trust do not actually want to get involved in actually selling the property at a foreclosure. So what will happen is they will name what we call substitute trustees. And these are going to be usually attorneys that are involved to try to actually do the sale. There may be attorneys or maybe they're foreclosure companies, but attorneys are definitely involved at that point. And so you will have a notice of substitute trustee sale. That's usually what the foreclosure notice looks like. It doesn't say necessarily all the time notice of foreclosure. It may say notice of substitute trustee sale because the trustee in the original deed of trust has named a substitute trustee to handle the process of selling the home at a foreclosure sale. So you will have properties that are sold on that day to the highest bidder. Now, quite frankly, what we see a lot is there is not enough people to buy those homes. There's usually a bank will end up being the highest bidder because there's just not enough people there, or the prices that are offered are not that high. So the final thing I want to talk about today is the pricing. Because in a foreclosure sale, let's say that you have a property that is worth $300,000, but you only owe $40,000 on it. So you have $260,000 of equity in that home, but it's being foreclosed upon. The bank and the substitute trustee have to do what they can to create a reasonable value for that sale. Now, the law gives them some leeway because the law says that they have to do something wrong in the process of noticing that sale and handling that sale. And that incorrect process leads to an unfair price for the property. So a lot of times the banks will argue when you say, hey, you didn't sell that property for high enough to give me value as the homeowner, because maybe you sold it for $50,000 and it was a $300,000 home. So yes, you got your loan paid, bank, but you only left me with $10,000 and didn't get my equity. Usually the bank's defense is going to be how we handled it was correct, and we can't help if there was no one there to purchase. So we did everything we could, and it still ended up in a bad price. That's where you get into litigation, quite frankly. There's a lot of fact issues involved. You definitely want to hire an attorney at that point to potentially fight that issue because you've lost that much value. Quite frankly, if you've got that much equity, you need to do whatever you can to save that house, to sell it before the bank does. You can try to sell that house before the foreclosure date. But there's all sorts of things you can do. So that is one way a homeowner can file a wrongful foreclosure suit after the foreclosure sale if the price was not good and there's some error in how they conducted that entire foreclosure process. Okay, so we've covered price, we've covered location, we've covered the time. So those are some pretty unique issues. I will say this regarding COVID. One story I heard, for example, during this time of COVID, is that banks were still trying to foreclose and conducting the foreclosure sales, right, knowing that there were these social distancing guidelines and that there were not going to be enough people to show up to give a fair market value for that sale. And so there's going to be some litigation when all is said and done about whether or not someone who forecloses on a property shows up at an empty courthouse because everyone's practicing social distancing or because there's some sort of county mandated guidelines regarding gatherings of 10 or more, whether or not that is a reasonable sale, whether or not the process of conducting that foreclosure was reasonable, knowing that it was going to lead to an unreasonable price for the purchase of that property. Those are cases that are definitely going to be coming up. I've heard about those sales where only one person has shown up, the person selling the property, and those are just going to be unique situations that we're going to have to deal with, and that the judges and the juries are going to have to deal with at some point. And obviously, when those cases work themselves up to the Court of Appeals will have to decide whether or not these foreclosure sales were conducted properly and then led to an unreasonable price. So I hope that this information has been helpful to you, as I do every day. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about property tax foreclosure sales. Those are the second highest number of sales behind bank foreclosure sales. So property tax foreclosure sales, they have some unique twists that are not part of your regular mortgage foreclosure sale. There's some litigation involved. There's a court order that has to be done. And quite frankly, when we get into what protections are happening regarding foreclosures on Friday, some of those protections are being done at the local level by county government because they are protecting against some of the property tax foreclosure sales. Okay, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the property tax foreclosure sales tomorrow, and then we'll have a big day on Friday talking about the various protections that are going on for people during this time of COVID. And we'll end the week on that big topic. I hope you have a good day. Again, this is Coffee with Law, afternoon tea edition. I'm Benjamin Sanchez. Have a great day. If you find this helpful, please follow, like, and share so that other people get this information as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.